Ji-hoon Park stood in the center of the Great Hall. Around him, hundreds of alien beings filled the massive chamber. Some had 4 arms, others had scales instead of skin. A few floated in tanks filled with strange liquid. All of them were staring at him. The Galactic Council had been making decisions for human beings for 300 years. Today, that would end. Ji-hoon looked up at the High Chancellor. Thysekar was a Vraxian, tall and thin with gray skin that looked like stone. His eyes were black and cold. He had been the leader of the council for 50 years. In all that time, he had never once voted in favor of humanity. Ambassador Park, Thysekar said, his voice echoing through the hall, "You have called for this emergency session. State your business." Ji-hoon took a deep breath. In his pocket was a small device that would record everything he said. This message would be sent to every human world across the galaxy. History was about to change. 3 days ago, Ji-hoon began, this council voted to move all human colonies from the Kepler sector. You want to take our people from their homes and put them on empty planets with no resources. You did this without asking us. You did this without caring what we think. A low rumble went through the chamber. Some aliens made clicking sounds. Others hissed. The Thalassen delegate, a being that looked like a giant sea creature, bubbled in its water tank. The guidance protocols exist for good reason, Thysekar replied. Humans are still young. You need direction. The Kepler worlds have resources that older species can use better. Humans will be happier on simpler worlds. Ji-hoon felt anger rise in his chest. For 3 centuries, humans had heard the same words. You're too young. You're too violent. You're too unpredictable. The aliens treated humans like children who could not make their own choices. We built those colonies, Ji-hoon said louder. Human hands, human minds, human sweat. We turned dead, rocks into living worlds, and now you want to give them away because you think other species deserve them more. The greater good requires sacrifice, said the Nexari delegate. Her name was Axathera, and she spoke through a machine that translated her thoughts into words. Humans must learn to think beyond themselves. Ji-hoon laughed, but there was no humor in it. Think beyond ourselves? Let me tell you what humans have done for this galaxy. We fixed the trade routes when they broke down. We solved the food crisis on 12 different worlds. We built the communication systems you use to talk to each other. We have given and given and given. And what do we get back? He pulled out a data pad and read from it. Humans cannot develop faster-than-light weapons. Humans cannot explore beyond the designated zones. Humans cannot trade certain materials. Humans cannot form military alliances. Humans cannot. Humans cannot. Humans cannot. He threw the pad on the floor. 300 years of cannot. Thysekar's black eyes narrowed. Humans are dangerous when left alone. Your species has a history of violence. The protocols keep the galaxy safe. Safe from what? Ji-hoon shouted. When was the last time humans started a war? When did we attack anyone? We follow your rules. We stay in our little boxes. And still you treat us like monsters waiting to explode. The chamber grew quiet. Even the translation machines seemed to pause. Ji-hoon walked closer to the High Chancellor's platform. You want to know what's really dangerous? Taking away everything someone has built and then acting surprised when they get angry. You want to know what's really violent? Forcing people from their homes because you decided other species matter more. The decision has been made, Thysekar said coldly. The vote was unanimous. All council members agree that humans must relocate. All council members, Ji-hoon repeated. All the aliens, you mean? Because humans don't get a real vote, do we? We get 1 voice out of 200. We get to sit here and listen while you decide our fate. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small metal pin. It was the symbol of Earth's membership in the Galactic Council. For 300 years, human ambassadors had worn it with pride. You know what? Ji-hoon said, holding up the pin. I'm tired of this. We're all tired of this. You think humans need guidance? You think we can't make our own choices? Fine, let's find out. He dropped the pin on the floor. The tiny sound it made when it hit seemed loud in the silent chamber. The human species formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. We reject your authority over our people. We reject your protocols. We reject your guidance. From this moment on, Earth and all human colonies are no longer part of your little club." The silence that followed was complete. 200 alien beings stared at him like he had just announced the end of the universe. This Akar was the first to speak. "You cannot do this. No species has ever left the Council." "Watch us," Ji-hun said. He turned his back on the High Chancellor and walked toward the exit. "Humanity is done taking orders from people who see us as children. We're going home, all of us." Behind him, the chamber exploded into noise. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Translation machines sparked and smoked from the overload, but Ji-hun didn't look back. He walked through the corridors of Nexus Station, past alien shops and restaurants, past beings who had never known what it was like to have their choices made for them. His ship was waiting in the docking bay. As soon as he was aboard, Ji-hun activated the communication system. The message he had recorded would now be sent to every human world in the galaxy. Earth, Mars, the colonies in the Alpha Centauri system, the mining stations around distant stars. All of them would hear the same words. "This is Ambassador Ji-hun Park with an official message from the Galactic Council chambers. As of today, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. All humans are ordered to return to Earth space immediately. Pack what you can carry. Leave everything else. We're going home." Admiral Minho Kang received the message on Earth 3 hours later. He was in his office at Terran Defense Command when the communication came through. For a moment, he just stared at the screen. Then he pressed a button on his desk. "All stations, this is Admiral Kang. Execute Protocol 7 immediately. Recall all civilian and military personnel to Earth space. Begin evacuation of all colonies outside the Sol system." This is not a drill. Across human space, the Great Exodus began. On mining stations and research outposts, on colony worlds and trading ships, humans started packing. They had built lives across the galaxy, but now it was time to leave it all behind. Some cried as they left homes they had known for generations. Others felt relief that the long humiliation was finally over. But all of them understood one thing. Humanity was about to find out what they could do when nobody else was making the rules. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to lose the humans they had never appreciated. 6 months had passed since Ji-hun Park walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. The galaxy was watching something that had never happened before. An entire species was packing up and going home. Dr. Sora Kim stood in her laboratory on Mars, looking at boxes of equipment. She was the head of the Martian Research Institute, one of the most important science centers in human space. Around her, teams of researchers were carefully packing 300 years of discoveries. "Are we really taking everything?" asked her assistant, a young man named Tai-hoon. "Everything," Sora said firmly. "Every piece of research, every invention, every breakthrough. The aliens want us gone? Fine. But we're not leaving them any gifts." She picked up a small device that looked like a simple metal cube. "Do you know what this is?" Tai-hoon shook his head. "This is a quantum processor core. Human-designed, human-built. It runs the main computer systems on 40% of the space stations in this galaxy. Without these, their computers will start failing in about 2 years. She placed it carefully in a protective case. The aliens never bothered to learn how to make them. They just used ours and acted like they were doing us a favor by letting us install them. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. On the trade station Kepler hub, Captain Do-Yoon Lee was overseeing the evacuation of the last human families. His ship, the Harmony, was one of 50 vessels taking people back to Earth space. "Captain," his first officer said, "the station manager wants to talk to you. He seems upset." Do-Yoon nodded. He had been expecting this conversation. The station manager was a Nexari named Koreth. His species looked somewhat like tall, thin humans, but with blue skin and no hair. Koreth's face was twisted with worry. "Captain Lee," Koreth said, "you cannot leave now. The maintenance schedule for the life support systems is next week. Your people are the only ones who know how to service the atmospheric processors." Do-Yoon looked at him calmly. "I'm sure you'll figure it out." "Figure it out?" Koreth's voice rose. "Those systems are incredibly complex. It took your engineers months to design them. We don't have the technical knowledge to maintain them. Then you should have thought of that before you voted to relocate our colonies." Do-yoon replied. The Galactic Council decided humans need guidance. Well, here's some guidance. Learn to take care of your own equipment. He turned to leave, but Koreth grabbed his arm. Please, there are over 10,000 beings on this station. If the life support fails... Do-yoon gently removed the alien's hand from his arm. The Council voted unanimously to move humans from our homes. Unanimously. That means your people voted for it too. You wanted us gone. So we're going. Live with the consequences. As the human ships left Kepler Hub, Koreth watched them go with growing panic. The humans had built or maintained 60% of the station's critical systems. The water recyclers, the artificial gravity generators, the communication arrays, all human technology or human-maintained alien technology. But Koreth's problems were small compared to what was happening on the industrial world of Mechanus Prime. The planet was home to the Chronites, a species of beings who were part machine, part organic. They had always looked down on humans as primitive biological creatures. Engineer Yunho Cha had worked on Mechanus Prime for 15 years. He was one of only 12 humans on the planet, but his work was crucial. He had designed the quantum manufacturing systems that built replacement parts for Chronite cybernetics. You cannot leave, declared Prime Engineer Conthex, his mechanical voice grinding with distress. The manufacturing protocols you created are beyond our understanding. Without maintenance, our people will begin dying when their cybernetic parts fail. Yunho finished packing his tools. You called humans flesh creatures with primitive minds last month. Those were your exact words. I remember because you said them right to my face. I was mistaken, Conthex admitted, something that was almost impossible for a Chronite to do. No, Yunho said. You were honest. You really do think we're primitive. So trust in your superior machine intelligence to solve your problems. You don't need primitive flesh creatures, remember? As Yunho's ship left the planet, alarms began sounding in the Chronite manufacturing centers. The quantum systems were already showing signs of instability. Without human oversight, the delicate balance of the manufacturing process was breaking down. Back on Earth, Admiral Minho Kong was coordinating the largest logistics operation in human history. Every day, hundreds of ships arrived carrying people and equipment from across the galaxy. The orbital shipyards around Earth were working constantly to build new ships to carry everything home. Status report, he said to his aide, Colonel Haiwan Song. 87% of all human civilians have been evacuated from alien space, she reported. 93% of our military personnel are back in Earth space. We're ahead of schedule. What about the technology transfers? That's where it gets interesting, sir. Our people have been very thorough. Dr. Sora Kim's teams have removed every piece of human-designed equipment they could find. The quantum processors, the medical scanners, the atmospheric controllers, everything, Minho nodded. Good. The aliens wanted to treat us like children who couldn't be trusted with advanced technology. Let's see how advanced their technology really is without our contributions. But the most important work was happening in secret laboratories across human space. For 300 years, the Galactic Council had restricted human research. Humans couldn't develop certain weapons, couldn't explore certain scientific fields, couldn't experiment with technologies the aliens considered too dangerous. Now, for the first time in 3 centuries, human scientists were free to pursue any research they wanted. Dr. Jaehyun Park, no relation to Ambassador Ji-hoon Park, was leading one of these secret projects. His team was working on something the aliens had absolutely forbidden: independent faster-than-light travel. The alien wormhole network is completely controlled by the Council, he explained to his team. They decide who can travel where and when, but what if we didn't need their wormholes? His assistant, Dr. Sumin Yu, looked skeptical. Every species in the galaxy uses the wormhole network. It's been the only way to travel between stars for thousands of years. Every species except humans, Jaehyun corrected. We've never been allowed to research alternatives. The Council said it was too dangerous, that we might destabilize space-time. But I think they were just scared of what we might discover. Meanwhile, on the alien worlds, the first cracks were starting to show. The Zalorians, a peaceful plant-like species, were having problems with their agricultural systems. Their crops had always grown well using human-developed soil treatments and genetic modifications. But now the humans were gone, and no one else understood the complex biological processes involved. Ambassador Velnara sent desperate messages toward human space. "Please," her communications said, "our children are starting to go hungry. The crop yields are dropping every day. We need technical assistance." The automatic response came back within hours. "The Terran Republic does not recognize alien authority and maintains no diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council or its members. Do not contact us again." On Nexus Station, where the Galactic Council met, Chancellor Thissakar was reading reports with growing concern. Communication delays were increasing across the galaxy as human-maintained relay stations went offline. Trade was becoming more difficult as the complex logistics systems that humans had built started failing. "This is temporary," he told the Council. "Humans were useful, but not irreplaceable. Other species will adapt to fill the gaps they left behind." But privately, Thissakar was beginning to worry. The reports coming in painted a troubling picture. It wasn't just that humans had been helpful. In many cases, they had been essential. They had solved problems that other species couldn't solve, built systems that other species didn't understand, and maintained technologies that were now failing without their expertise. The galaxy had taken human contributions for granted for so long that no one had realized how dependent they had become. Now, as systems failed and problems mounted, a disturbing question was starting to emerge. What if the humans weren't coming back? In human space, the evacuation continued. Every day brought more ships full of people and equipment. Every day, humanity became more isolated from the galaxy that had rejected them. And every day, human scientists and engineers worked on projects that would have been impossible under alien oversight. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you told a species they weren't ready to be free, and then gave them the chance to prove you wrong. 2 years had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. Lieutenant Heian Choi sat at her monitoring station aboard the patrol ship New Seoul, watching the border between human space and the rest of the galaxy. Her orders were simple but absolute. No communication with alien vessels, no assistance to non-human ships, and complete isolation of human territory. "Contact on sensors," reported her scanner operator. "Alien vessel approaching the border." Heian looked at her screen. It was a Thalassen science ship, moving slowly and broadcasting distress signals. The whale-like aliens inside were probably dying. Their ship's life support was clearly failing. "Orders, Lieutenant?" asked the scanner operator. Heian felt a moment of sympathy, but her orders were clear. "Send the standard message and maintain distance." The automated response went out. "You are approaching Terran space. This is a restricted area. Turn back immediately. The Terran Republic does not provide assistance to alien vessels." She watched the Thalassen ship drift away, its distress signals growing weaker. 2 years ago, human ships would have rushed to help. Now they turned away and let the aliens face their problems alone. The galaxy was learning what silence meant. On the peaceful world of Erethan, farmer-poet Velnara stood in her dying fields. The Zalorians had always been a gentle species, spending their time growing beautiful plants and writing songs about the harmony of nature. They had never been good with technology. For decades, human agricultural scientists had helped them develop new growing techniques. Dr. Taeyang's son had created special soil treatments that helped their crops grow stronger and healthier. His genetics modifications had made their plants resistant to disease and drought. But now the humans were gone, and the plants were dying. "The soil analysis shows severe nutrient depletion," reported Chief Scientist Morthala, one of the few Zalorians who understood technical matters. "The treatments that Dr. Sun developed lasted exactly 2 years. Without renewal, the soil is reverting to its original state." Velnara touched one of her withering plants. The leaves were turning brown and falling off. "Can we not create new treatments ourselves?" "We have tried. Dr. Sun's notes are incredibly complex. He understood biochemistry at a level that none of our people have achieved. The treatments involve thousands of different compounds working together in precise balance. We cannot replicate them." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. The great trading hub of Central Station was experiencing its worst crisis in centuries. For 50 years, human economist Nara Jung had designed the computer systems that managed interstellar commerce. Her algorithms balanced supply and demand across hundreds of worlds, coordinated shipping routes, and predicted market trends. Now those systems were failing. Station Manager Corlex, a four-armed Vraxian, stared at screens full of error messages. Trade routes that had worked smoothly for decades were breaking down. Ships were arriving at the wrong stations, carrying goods that weren't needed while other stations ran out of critical supplies. "Can we not fix the algorithms?" Corlex asked his technical staff. "We have tried," replied Chief Technician Vorth. "The human economist who designed them used mathematical models that we do not understand. Her calculations involved probability matrices that our best mathematicians cannot decode. Without her regular updates and adjustments, the entire system is slowly falling apart." But the worst crisis was happening on the industrial worlds. The Chronites of Mechanus Prime were facing a nightmare that threatened their entire species. Their people were part machine, part biological, and they needed constant replacement parts for their cybernetic systems. The quantum manufacturing systems that created these parts had been designed by human engineer Yunho Cha. For 2 years, the Chronites had tried to maintain them alone. Now the systems were failing, and the Chronites were starting to die. Prime Engineer Conthex stood in the main manufacturing center, watching helplessly as another quantum processor burned out. Around him, dozens of his people lay on repair tables, their cybernetic parts failing one by one. "Status report," he demanded in his mechanical voice. 17 more quantum processors have failed this week," reported his assistant. "We have only 12 functioning units left. At this rate, we will have no working manufacturing capacity within 6 months. And the research into creating new processors? No progress. The human engineer's designs require materials and techniques that we cannot replicate. The quantum field mathematics alone are beyond our understanding." Conthex looked at his own cybernetic arm, noticing slight tremors that hadn't been there before. His own replacement parts were scheduled for renewal in 4 months. If they couldn't restore the manufacturing systems, he would be among the dead. In human space, the situation was very different. Director Min-Jae-Oh stood on the observation deck of Orbital City 1, watching construction ships build humanity's newest achievement. The massive station was 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built before, with rotating sections that created artificial gravity and gardens that stretched for kilometers. "Construction is ahead of schedule," reported his assistant, Engineer Bora Lee. "Without the Galactic Council's restrictions on large-scale construction, our teams have been able to implement designs that were previously forbidden." Min-Jae nodded. For 3 centuries, the aliens had limited human construction projects, claiming that large structures might destabilize local space. Now, free from those restrictions, humanity was building wonders. What about the new research? Projects? Dr. Unipak's team has made 3 major breakthroughs this month alone. The new fusion reactors are 400% more efficient than our previous designs. The matter replication systems can now create complex materials that we could never make before. And the terraforming technology— Bora paused, smiling. "The terraforming technology is like nothing anyone has ever seen. Deep in the research labs of the Martian Institute, Dr. Unipak was working on humanity's most ambitious project yet. The aliens had always forbidden humans from developing certain technologies, claiming they were too dangerous or too advanced. Terraforming was one of them. The atmospheric processors are working perfectly," she reported to her team. "We can transform a dead world into a garden planet in just 18 months. The alien terraforming projects take centuries and often fail completely." Her assistant, Dr. Kyungmin Han, looked amazed. "How is our technology so much better than theirs?" "Because we approach problems differently," Yuna explained. "Aliens tend to use the same old methods their species has always used. Humans are willing to try new approaches, to combine technologies in ways that seem impossible. The aliens called this dangerous thinking. I call it innovation. But the most significant breakthrough was happening in Dr. Jae-hyun Park's secret laboratory. His team had been working on independent, faster-than-light travel, something the aliens claimed was impossible. "The test was successful," he announced to his excited team. "The jump drive works. We can travel between star systems without using the alien wormhole network." Dr. Sumin Yu could hardly believe it. "Are you certain? Faster-than-light travel without wormholes has never been achieved." "Never been achieved by aliens," Jae-hyun corrected. They've been using the same wormhole technology for thousands of years. They never tried to develop alternatives because they didn't need to. But humans have always been good at finding new solutions to old problems. Captain Gi-hwan. Ryu was selected to pilot the first test flight of the jump drive. His ship, the Pioneer, was equipped with the new technology and prepared for a journey that would change everything. Initiating jump sequence, he reported from the pilot's seat. Destination, Proxima Centauri. Distance, 4 light-years. The bow. Space around his ship began to shimmer and bend. Unlike the stable wormhole portals that aliens used, the jump drive created its own temporary passage through space-time. Jump initiated. Now. The Pioneer vanished from Earth space and reappeared near Proxima Centauri in less than 30 seconds. The trip that would have taken 6 hours through the alien wormhole network was completed in half a minute. Jump successful, Gi-hwan reported, his voice filled with excitement. All systems normal. No damage to the ship or crew. The jump drive exceeded all expectations. Back in alien space, the crisis was deepening every day. The Galactic Council met in emergency session, but for the first time in centuries, they had no solutions to offer. Chancellor Thisakar looked around the chamber. Nearly a quarter of the seats were empty. Entire species had stopped sending representatives because their governments were too busy dealing with infrastructure failures to participate in galactic politics. The situation reports grow worse each day, he announced to the remaining delegates. Communication delays across the galaxy now average 6 hours due to relay station failures. 17 worlds are reporting critical shortages of manufactured goods. The Central Station Trade Hub is operating at only 30% capacity. What of the humans? Asked the Nexari delegate Axathera. Have they responded to any of our diplomatic overtures? All messages are returned with the same automated response. Thisakar replied bitterly. The Terran Republic maintains no diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council or its members. They refuse to even acknowledge our communications. The truth that none of them wanted to admit. 3 years had passed since humanity withdrew from the galaxy and civilizations were collapsing. On the industrial world of Factorus, Engineer Prime Kethix stood before the greatest manufacturing complex in Chronite history. The massive facility had produced starship components for half the galaxy for over a century. Now it was silent. Final status report, Kethix demanded of his subordinates. All quantum processing units have failed, reported Engineer Vorthak. The last backup systems, shut down this morning. Without the human design processors, we cannot manufacture even the simplest components. Kethix looked at his own mechanical arms. Small tremors had started 3 weeks ago. His cybernetic heart was making irregular sounds. Like millions of other Chronites, his body was slowly dying as replacement parts became impossible to obtain. How long do we have? He asked quietly. The medical engineers estimate that 60% of our population will experience critical system failures within 8 months. After that, Vorthak's mechanical voice trailed off. After that, our species dies, Kethix finished. The proud Chronites, who had always believed their machine-enhanced bodies made them superior to weak biological creatures, were facing extinction because they couldn't make the parts that kept them alive, the parts that only humans had known how to build. Meanwhile, on the Vraxian homeworld, Chancellor Thisakar was receiving the most humiliating report in his species' long history. Fleet Admiral Korathax stood before him with news that would have been unthinkable just 3 years earlier. Our war fleet is becoming inoperative, Korathax reported. 60% of our ships cannot leave orbit due to hull degradation. The remaining vessels are experiencing critical systems failures. Thisakar's gray face darkened. Explain. The hull plating that protects our ships from radiation and impacts was created using human metallurgy techniques. Human engineer Sang-ho Kim developed the alloy formulas. Human scientists calculated the molecular structures. Our people learned to install the plating, but we never learned to create it. What about our weapons systems? Also failing. The targeting computers use mathematical algorithms created by human weapons specialists. Dr. Suyung Lee designed the trajectory calculations that allow our photon cannons to hit targets across interstellar distances. Without those calculations, our weapons are useless. Thisakar slammed his fist on his desk. The Vraxian Empire had dominated the galaxy for 1,000 years. Their military might had kept other species in line and enforced the Council's decisions. Now that military was crumbling because they had depended on the very humans they had oppressed. Can we not recreate these technologies ourselves? We have tried for 3 years. The human approaches to metallurgy and mathematics are completely different from ours. They think in ways that our minds cannot follow. Their solutions seem impossible, yet they work perfectly. But the crisis was spreading far beyond military and industrial concerns. On the beautiful water world of Aquatica, the Thalassan people were dying in their own oceans. Marine biologist Velthara floated in her observation chamber, watching the coral reefs that had been her life's work turn white and crumble. The Thalassans were an aquatic species who lived in harmony with their ocean environment, but their seas were becoming toxic. The water purification systems have completely failed, reported her assistant Morthala. The biochemical processes that Dr. Inwoo Park designed are far more complex than we understood. Without his regular adjustments and maintenance, the entire ocean ecosystem is collapsing. Velthara had met Dr. Park many times over the years. He was a quiet human who loved marine biology almost as much as the Thalassans did. His water purification systems had kept their oceans clean and healthy for 50 years. What about the backup systems? Also designed by humans. The chemical formulas they used require precision that we cannot achieve. Every attempt we make to recreate their processes results in toxic compounds that make the situation worse. Entire cities of Thalassans were being evacuated from poisoned seas. A species that had lived in perfect harmony with water for millions of years was being driven from their ocean homes because they couldn't maintain the systems that had protected them. In human space, the picture could not have been more different. Admiral Yanjin Bei stood in the command center of Earth's newest orbital defense platform, reading intelligence reports from the galaxy beyond. "The situation is worse than we predicted," she told Director Minjae, who had come to review the latest data. 17 species are facing population declines due to infrastructure failures. 8 civilizations have regressed to pre-spaceflight technology levels. The galaxy's communication network is operating at less than 20% capacity. What about the Council itself? Barely functional. Half the member species have stopped sending representatives. 3 sector governments have completely collapsed. The Vraxian fleet, which used to patrol the galaxy, can barely defend their own homeworld. Minjae looked at the reports with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. They brought this on themselves. 300 years of treating us like children, who couldn't be trusted with advanced technology. Now they're learning what advanced really means. The truth was that humanity had advanced far beyond what they had achieved under alien oversight. Dr. Unipak's terraforming technology had transformed 12 dead worlds into garden planets in just 2 years. Each new human world was more beautiful and productive than anything the aliens had ever created. "How are the new settlements progressing?" Minjae asked. Beyond all expectations, New Terra's population reached 2 million last month. The atmospheric processors have created a perfect environment. Clean air, comfortable temperature, and soil so rich that crops grow twice as fast as on old Earth. Paradise Station is producing more food than it can use and exporting surplus to other human worlds. But it was the technological breakthroughs that truly showed how much the aliens had held humanity back. Captain Gihuan Ryu's successful test of the jump drive had led to rapid improvements in faster-than-light travel. Now human ships could cross the galaxy in days rather than months. "The new jump drive is incredible," reported Chief Engineer Minji Yoon. "We can travel 10 times faster than the alien wormhole network ever allowed. Our ships can reach any point in the galaxy before alien vessels can even enter their nearest wormhole." Dr. Jae-hyun Park's team had not stopped with simple FTL travel. They were now working on technologies that the aliens would have called impossible. "The dimensional research is showing promise," he told his team during their weekly meeting. "If we can create stable portals through higher dimensions, we won't need ships at all. People and cargo could travel instantly between any 2 points in space." Dr. Sumin Yu shook her head in amazement. The aliens said such technologies were beyond the reach of young species and dangerous to galactic stability. They've been using the same wormhole technology for 10,000 years because they're afraid to try anything new. "Fear of change is what separates old civilizations from young ones," Jae-hyun replied. "The aliens have become comfortable with their limitations. Humans never accept limitations as permanent. While humanity reached for impossible technologies, the galaxy struggled with basic maintenance. The crisis had reached even the most stable alien civilizations. On Nexus Station, where the Galactic Council met, Administrator Velkara watched. Repair teams tried to fix a water recycling system that had been installed by human engineers decades earlier. "Any progress?" she asked the lead technician. "None," replied the frustrated Nexari engineer. "The system uses biological filters that regenerate themselves. The human who designed it called it living technology. We cannot understand how it works because it combines mechanical engineering with biological processes in ways that seem impossible. What about consulting the original installation records? The records are there, but they might as well be written in an alien language." The human engineer thought in ways that make no sense to us. He saw connections between things that seem completely unrelated. The same story was playing out across the galaxy. Critical systems were failing because aliens could not maintain technologies they had never truly understood. They had used human inventions for centuries without learning the principles behind them. But the most desperate situation was developing on the homeworlds of the Nexari hegemony. As one of the galaxy's major powers, they had always prided themselves on their advanced technology and sophisticated culture. Now their people were facing starvation. Agriculture Minister Thexara stood in the main food distribution center of the capital city, watching supplies dwindle day by day. "The automated farming systems are producing only 30% of normal yields," reported Food Coordinator Velthon. "The soil treatment programs that maintained our agricultural worlds were designed and maintained by human agricultural specialists. Without their knowledge, our farming techniques are reverting to primitive methods. Cannot our own agricultural scientists solve these problems? They have tried for 2 years. The human approach to agriculture involves complex interactions between soil chemistry, plant genetics, and environmental control. Dr. Wanbin Lim spent 40 years developing these techniques. Our people cannot recreate in 2 years what took him a lifetime to perfect." Thexara looked out. 4 years after humanity's withdrawal, the galaxy was dying. On the beautiful water world of Aquatica, marine scientist Velthara floated in her emergency shelter, one of the last safe places left in the poisoned oceans. Through the transparent walls, she watched her world's death. The coral reefs were gone. The fish were dead. The water that had sustained her people for millions of years was now toxic. "How many survivors?" she asked her assistant, Morthala. "Fewer than 1 million. Most of our people have died from poisoning. The few remaining are in emergency shelters like this one, but our life support systems are failing too." Velthara felt the weight of her species approaching extinction. The Thalassans had lived in perfect harmony with their oceans until they started using human-designed water purification systems. Those systems had worked so well that the Thalassans had forgotten how to maintain their environment naturally. "The irony is terrible," she whispered. "The humans made our world cleaner and safer than ever before. But when they left, we discovered that we had become completely dependent on their technology. We lost our natural abilities and gained nothing. We could maintain ourselves. On the insectoid worlds of the Zephyrian Collective, the situation was even worse. The hive mind species had always been efficient at managing resources, but their coordination had depended on AI systems designed by human programmers. Queen Mind Zixara stood in the central control chamber of the primary hive, watching status, displays that showed red error messages across dozens of worlds. Without the human-designed logistics systems, the collective could not coordinate food distribution for their billions of inhabitants. "Hive World 7 reports mass starvation," announced Workermind Clixthar. 3 billion dead in the past month. The food shipments are not arriving because the routing algorithms have completely failed. What of our own programmers? Can they not repair the systems? Negative, Queen Mind. The human approach to artificial intelligence is beyond our understanding. They created learning systems that adapt and grow. Our minds think in fixed patterns that cannot replicate such flexible intelligence. Zizixara felt something she had never experienced before. Despair. The Zephyrians had always believed their hive mind intelligence made them superior to individual thinkers like humans. Now they were discovering that individual creativity was needed to build the flexible systems that managed complex societies. But the worst crisis was happening in the heart of galactic civilization itself. On Nexus Station, the center of government for thousands of worlds, Administrator Velcara watched the greatest disaster in galactic history unfold. The central database is experiencing cascade failures, reported Chief Archivist Morden, his voice filled with panic. We are losing 10,000 years of accumulated knowledge. Velcara rushed to the main archive chamber where massive quantum storage systems held the collected wisdom of hundreds of species. Warning lights flashed everywhere, and the air hummed with the sound of failing equipment. How is this possible? She demanded. These systems were built to last forever. They were built using human quantum architecture principles, Morden explained desperately. Dr. Jihoon Yang designed the core storage matrices 40 years ago. The systems were supposed to be self-maintaining, but they require periodic calibration that only he understood. Without that calibration, the quantum fields are becoming unstable. What will we lose? Everything. Scientific discoveries, historical records, cultural artifacts, technical specifications, the entire foundation of galactic civilization. We estimate that 80% of our stored knowledge will be corrupted beyond recovery within 6 months. The thought was almost too horrible to contemplate. Thousands of years of progress, millions of discoveries, the accumulated wisdom of hundreds of species, all of it disappearing because no one had learned to maintain the systems that stored it. Meanwhile, on the proud worlds of the Vraxian Empire, Chancellor Thisakar faced the end of his people's dominance. The gray-skinned Vraxians had ruled through military might for 1,000 years, but their forces were now helpless. Fleet status report, he demanded of Admiral Korathax. Catastrophic, Chancellor. Only 12 ships remain operational out of our fleet of 3,000. The rest are grounded due to hull failures, weapon malfunctions, or complete systems breakdown. Our great war fleet is now weaker than a single human patrol squadron was 5 years ago. Thisakar stared at his reflection in the polished surface of his desk. His species had always believed they were the natural leaders of the galaxy. They had imposed their will on younger species, claiming it was for the greater good. Now they couldn't even defend their own homeworld. What of our ground forces? Also failing. The powered armor systems use human-designed energy cells. The communication networks rely on human signal processing technology. Even our basic weapons use targeting systems that we cannot maintain without human technical knowledge. The Chancellor, who had dismissed humans as aggressive primitives, was learning that those primitives had been essential to everything his empire had accomplished. In human space, Admiral Yonjin Bei received intelligence reports that painted a picture of total galactic collapse. She stood in her office on Luna Station, reading updates from automated monitoring posts along the border. The Chronite population has declined by 70%, she reported to President Daeho Kim during their weekly briefing. Most of their industrial worlds are now uninhabited. The Thalassen species appears to be down to fewer than 500,000 individuals. The Zephyrian Collective has lost contact with 60% of their hive worlds. President Kim listened to the reports with a mixture of sadness and satisfaction. How many species have contacted us directly? 47 so far. All of them are desperate. The Nexari hegemony has offered us complete control of their territory in exchange for technical assistance. The Vraxian Empire has promised to disband their military and accept human oversight if we will help them maintain their basic infrastructure. And our response? The same as always. All communications are returned with our standard message. The Terran Republic maintains no diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council or its members. But the most remarkable development was happening in human research facilities across the solar system. Free from alien restrictions, human science had advanced beyond anything previously imagined. Dr. Yuna Pak stood in her new laboratory on Europa, watching as her latest invention reshaped matter at the molecular level. The device could transform any substance into any other substance, turning rocks into gold or carbon into diamond with perfect efficiency. The matter reorganization technology is working flawlessly, she reported to her team. We can now create any material we need from basic elements. The aliens spent thousands of years mining rare minerals from dangerous worlds. We can create the same materials from dirt. Her assistant, Dr. Kyungmin Han, was still amazed by their progress. In 4 years, we've developed technologies that the aliens said were impossible. What changed? Freedom, Yuna replied simply. For 3 centuries, the aliens told us what we could and couldn't research. They said certain technologies were too dangerous, too advanced, or too unpredictable for humans to handle. But those restrictions weren't protecting the galaxy, they were protecting alien superiority. Dr. Jae-hyun Park's team had achieved even more spectacular breakthroughs. His dimensional portal technology was now operational, allowing instant travel between any 2 points in space. "The portals are stable and safe," he announced to President Kim during a demonstration. "We can transport people, cargo, or entire fleets instantly across galactic distances. Space travel as the aliens understand it is now obsolete." President Kim stepped through the portal and found himself on a space station orbiting Alpha Centauri, 4 light-years from Earth. The journey that would have taken alien ships weeks through their wormhole network had been completed in less than a second. "Remarkable," he said. "How long before this technology can be deployed across all human worlds?" "The network will be complete within 6 months. Every human world, every space station, every ship will be connected by instant portals. We will have true unity across human space." But perhaps the most significant achievement was humanity's new approach to terraforming. Engineer Min Ji-yoon had developed techniques that could transform dead worlds into paradises in just months, rather than centuries. "The new worlds are better than anything nature ever created," she explained to a group of planetary architects. "Perfect climate, rich soil, clean water, and beautiful landscapes designed specifically for human habitation. Each world is unique, but optimized for maximum livability." As human civilization flourished beyond all previous dreams, the galaxy continued its collapse. The final breaking point came when the Nexari hegemony, one of the most powerful alien civilizations, sent an unprecedented message directly to Earth. The communication bypassed all normal diplomatic channels and was transmitted on emergency frequencies that hadn't been used for centuries. The message was simple but desperate. "To the leaders of humanity, this is Ax Thera, Supreme Leader of the Nexari hegemony. Our people are dying. Our civilization is ending. We formally request an audience with human leadership. We know we have no right to ask for help after how we treated your species, but 5 years after humanity withdrew from the galaxy, President Dae-ho Kim stood before the assembled leaders of the Terran Republic. The Great Council chamber in New Geneva was filled with representatives from every human world, space station, and colony. Today, they would decide the fate of the galaxy. "Citizens of humanity," President Kim began, his voice carrying to billions of humans across space through instant portal communication. 5 years ago, we left a galaxy that saw us as children who needed constant guidance. Today, we are the most advanced civilization in known space." The chamber was silent as he continued. "Our worlds are paradises that surpass anything nature ever created. Our technology allows us to reshape matter, travel instantly across infinite distances, and terraform dead planets in months rather than centuries. We have achieved everything the aliens said was impossible. Through the great windows of the chamber, Earth's orbital cities were visible, massive structures that housed millions of people in perfect harmony with nature. Gardens floated in space, connected by bridges of light created by human engineering. It was beautiful beyond imagination. The question before us today," President Kim said, "is whether we will share our achievements with the galaxy that rejected us." Ambassador Sun-hee Lim had arrived 3 days earlier, the first alien permitted in human space since the withdrawal. She represented what remained of the Galactic Council, fewer than 50 species out of the original 200. The rest had either gone extinct or reverted to primitive technology levels. As she sat in the designated observer area, Sun-hee looked around the Human Council chamber with growing amazement. The technology she saw was centuries ahead of anything in the galaxy. The humans weren't just surviving without galactic guidance, they were thriving beyond all comprehension. Captain Jae-won No, who had been assigned as her escort, noticed her expression. "Impressive, isn't it?" he said quietly. "This council chamber was built in 6 months using our new construction techniques. The whole structure is made from materials we create at the molecular level." "How?" Sun-hee asked, her voice barely a whisper. "How did you advance so far in just 5 years?" "Freedom," Jae-won replied simply. "For 300 years, your people told us what we couldn't do, what we couldn't build, what we couldn't research. You said it was for our own good and the galaxy's safety. But really, you were just afraid of what we might accomplish. President Kim's speech continued. The aliens are dying. Entire species face extinction because they cannot maintain the technologies they took for granted. The thalassans' oceans are poisoned. The Chronites' cybernetic bodies are failing. The Zephyrians cannot feed their billions. The great Vraxian Empire cannot defend a single world. He paused, letting the weight of those words settle over the assembly. They are suffering because they built their civilization on human knowledge, without learning to maintain it themselves. For centuries, humans solved their problems, designed their systems, and maintained their technology. When we left, their entire civilization began to collapse. Admiral Yonjin Bei stood to present the intelligence reports. Current estimates suggest that galactic population has declined by 40% in 5 years. 17 species are extinct. 8 civilizations have completely reverted to pre-spaceflight technology. The galactic communication network operates at less than 5% capacity. The numbers were staggering. In 5 years, humanity's absence had caused the collapse of a civilization that had existed for thousands of years. Dr. Yuna Pak was called to speak about humanity's technological achievements. We have solved problems that the aliens claimed were impossible, she reported. Our matter reorganization technology can create any substance from basic elements. Our dimensional portals allow instant travel across any distance. Our terraforming systems can create perfect worlds in months. She gestured to a display showing human colonies across space. Each of our new worlds supports larger populations than the aliens' greatest cities, with perfect environments and unlimited resources. We have achieved true post-scarcity civilization. Dr. Jaehyun Park presented the most remarkable achievement. Our dimensional research has opened possibilities that the aliens never imagined. We can access parallel dimensions, harvest energy from quantum fluctuations, and manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. The restrictions the aliens placed on our research weren't protecting the galaxy. They were keeping us from advancing beyond their control. As the presentations continued, Sun-Hee realized the horrible truth. The Galactic Council hadn't been guiding humanity for their protection. They had been holding humanity back to maintain their own superiority. And now that humanity was free, they had advanced so far that the galaxy seemed primitive by comparison. President Kim called for the vote that would determine the galaxy's future. The question before us is simple. Do we help the aliens who oppressed us, or do we let them face the consequences of their choices alone? The debate that followed was intense. Some humans argued for mercy, saying that genocide was wrong regardless of past treatment. Others argued that the aliens had made their choice when they consistently voted against human interests for 3 centuries. Representative Minseo Park from the Mars colonies spoke for many when she said, "They treated us like dangerous children for 300 years. They restricted our technology, limited our expansion, and dismissed our contributions. Now they're dying because they couldn't maintain the civilization we built for them. Why should we save people who never respected us?" But Representative Taehyun Lee from Europa offered a different perspective. "We're better than they are. That's why we advanced so far when given freedom. If we let them die out of spite, we become no better than they were. We have the power to save them. The question is whether we have the wisdom to use that power correctly." The vote was close, but humanity ultimately chose mercy over revenge. The decision was not to restore the old system, but to offer something entirely new, President Kim announced. The decision to Ambassador Sun-Hee, and through her, to what remained of the galaxy. The Terran Republic will establish limited contact with surviving alien civilizations. However, any future relationship will be on humanity's terms. He outlined humanity's conditions. First, the Galactic Council is permanently dissolved. Second, any species that wants human assistance must acknowledge human technological and cultural superiority. Third, humans will decide which technologies to share and which to keep. Fourth, no restrictions will ever again be placed on human research or expansion. Most importantly, he continued, humanity will not simply fix your broken systems and return to the old arrangement. If you want our help, you must earn it by proving that you've learned from your mistakes. Ambassador Sun-Hee listened with growing understanding. Humanity wasn't offering to rejoin galactic civilization as junior partners. They were offering to lead it as the superior species they had become. "What of species that refuse these terms?" she asked quietly. Captain Jaywin's expression was serious but not unkind. "Then they will face their problems alone, as they chose to make us face our restrictions alone. We will not force anyone to accept our help, but we will not beg anyone to accept it either." The message was broadcast across the galaxy using human communication technology that reached every surviving world instantly. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Desperate alien governments that had once voted unanimously to relocate. Human colonies now begged for any assistance humanity was willing to provide. But some species, particularly the proud Vraxians, initially refused to accept human superiority. Chancellor Thisakar sent a defiant message. "The Vraxian Empire does not bow to former subjects. We will solve our own problems." 6 months later, as the last Vraxian cities failed and their population dwindled toward extinction, a very different message arrived. The once mighty Chancellor, now ruling over a handful of dying worlds, sent a simple communication. "The Vraxian people formally request admission to the human-led Galactic Federation. We acknowledge human superiority and pledge to earn your assistance through loyal service." As alien species across the galaxy received the new terms, they finally understood what they had lost when they drove humanity away. The species they had dismissed as primitive and dangerous had become their only hope for survival. The galaxy that had once held its breath waiting for human compliance now held its breath waiting for human mercy. And in human space, as president, Kim watched construction begin on the first human-led galactic administration centers. He reflected on how completely the situation had changed. 5 years ago, humans had been subjects begging for basic rights. Now they were gods deciding which civilizations deserved to survive. The galaxy had taught humanity a valuable lesson about the price of underestimating others. Now humanity would teach the galaxy about the consequences of arrogance and the value of respect. Some species would earn their place in the new order. Others would fade into history as reminders of what happened when you dismiss the potential of those you claim to guide. But for the first time in galactic history, the most advanced species was also the most free, and that perhaps would make all the difference in what came next.